Tropical storm Francine is rapidly intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico and could become a hurricane by later tonight in two distinct areas in the Atlantic with a high likelihood of tropical development. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back at Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on a Monday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this jam-packed video, going to have all the newest information on Tropical Storm Francine. The news is not good. It continues to rapidly intensify, and there are now hurricane warnings issued for portions of the northern Gulf Coast of the United States. We'll look at everything Francine. We'll also take a look at some very active weather through portions of the Lesser Antilles and some of the Greater Antilles for today, and then two areas of high likelihood development in the Atlantic for the week ahead as well. You know, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments section below where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. If you have a specific question about the forecast, you can drop it down there as well. Let's get started. And obviously, we're going to talk about what's going on right now with Francine. We're going to look at what's going on across their area and then deep dive into the forecast. Again, the news is not great with Francine. Winds are up to 65 miles an hour. Francine could become a hurricane later on this Monday evening or early on Tuesday. We've lost a little bit of the coldest cloud tops of Francine, but we're also seeing very good banding features beginning to develop around that low-level center of circulation, and Francine should continue to rapidly intensify. Unfortunately, the forecast now is for Francine to become a Category 2 hurricane before landfall along coastal Louisiana sometime either very late on Wednesday or very early on Thursday morning. The numbers that you see on your screen are wind gusts in miles an hour, and again, good convection around the center here on the infrared imagery. We'll look at the visible satellite imagery over the last couple of hours as well. Again, very clear banding features beginning to spiral in. Center of circulation is going to stay offshore, so it's not going to interact with land, and Francine again should continue to unfortunately rapidly intensify as it turns north and east. Now it's slow moving right now, but an increase in forward speed is expected throughout the day tomorrow and on Wednesday. So we now have our fifth named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season with Francine, and very, very shortly we'll have our fourth hurricane. These are the 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time numbers on Francine. I waited to make this video to get you hot off the presses, all of the newest from the full discussion and full advisory for the Hurricane Center as of 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time. That's, of course, 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time and Atlantic Standard Time. Winds are up to 65 miles an hour. Pressure has plummeted down to 996 millibars. Francine is getting stronger, moving north-northwest at 7, but again, an increase in forward speed is likely. Now located 435 miles to the south-southwest of Cameron, Louisiana. There are tropical storm watches all the way from North Texas to the coastline of Louisiana, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Maurepas. Okay, we then have tropical storm warnings on either side of this red area, which is the hurricane warning, and that's for coastal sides of Louisiana, and I'm going to highlight these areas coming up. But just note that, again, tropical storm conditions are possible throughout Texas. Tropical storm and hurricane conditions are likely in Louisiana beginning late Tuesday throughout the day Wednesday and into early on Thursday. And again, the forecast from the Hurricane Center has Francine becoming a Category 2 with winds of 100 miles an hour before landfall. Friends, we're going to get into the forecast of Francine coming up, but before we get into that, I want to cover the rest of our area, what's happening on this Monday. We've seen a few showers and storms develop across portions of the Bahamas for today, some near Abaco, some near Andros. It's been relatively quiet. A couple more thunderstorms could try and race into the far western sides of Grand Bahama and Bimini. Otherwise, it's been a very hot, quiet afternoon. Thunderstorms in an isolated variety over portions of Cuba. We've seen a couple of thunderstorms develop today, especially on the western and southwest sides of Jamaica, Sav-la-Mar, on over towards the Negril area, Lucy, maybe over towards Cambridge. So just a couple of storms there in the far western sides. We've been quiet in the Cayman Islands for today. Thunderstorms have redeveloped across portions of the Yucatan inland from Cancun and Cozumel. A few isolated storms over portions of Belize towards Orange Walk and inland as well. Thunderstorms storms are becoming more active at the hour over portions of southern Honduras and Nicaragua, more active weather off the coastlines of Panama and Costa Rica, but some of these storms will try and eke their way inland. Notice a couple of thunderstorms trying to get close to the ABC Islands for today, but unfortunately they're mainly to the south and to the west of those areas. Excuse me, I moved my lightning strike count, which you can see here at Meteo Mundo Live. I grabbed that instead of grabbing the map. Few thunderstorms today, mainly into the southeastern sides of Haiti, a couple over portions of the Dominican Republic. Good cluster of storms there. Watch out for some heavier rain to the east of Port-au-Prince. We've seen some storms beginning to develop across the U.S. and British Virgin Islands for today. A few wind gusts here and there. Some of this rain is welcome because it's also been very hot, but watch out for some excessive rain across portions of Puerto Rico, Vieques, Culebra, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, and the U.S. Virgin and British Virgin Islands as well. A little bit more active weather today across portions of the Lesser Antilles. I'm going to bring on our visible satellite imagery as well. And again, 30-mile-an-hour winds over St. Bart's Fort today with some isolated heavier rain. It's been a little bit more isolated in Anguilla, Barbuda, Antigua today, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, Guadeloupe. Now you get back down towards Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. And these are the areas that have had some very active weather for today. On this enhanced satellite imagery, this is what we call a shear axis. It's an elongated area of showers and storms, but it's produced some really squirrely looking clouds out there. Some excessive rain. We've had more active weather like Barbados for today, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines on off towards the south. Couple of images to show you from our Meteo Mundo community. This is from Chad Forbush yesterday, sailing near Dominica. He saw a couple of funnel clouds basically developing on the northwest sides of Dominica, kind of towards the southern sides of Guadeloupe. There's kind of a wider shot and then a closer shot of this funnel cloud. He said it was kind of developing all around them as they were sailing across that area. I appreciate Chad. Again, this is from yesterday. And then Barbie King actually flew into St. Lucia this afternoon, and as she was flying in, she took this imagery for us here as that plane was beginning to descend. And again, look at those clouds spinning around there. Looks like it could be some kind of tropical system, but what it was, again, was this shear axis of just some very heavy rain and some what I call SLC, some scary looking clouds out there producing numerous showers and storms across this area. It's down towards Trinidad and Tobago in a couple of spots, Nueva Esparta as well. And this axis will push its way off towards the west and also provide better rain chances for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico here as we get into tomorrow. Okay, now we're going to get into the forecast, friends. I want to take just 1 second and talk about these things because some of you have emailed me lately and asked, "So Rusty, I want to support you. What are the ways I can do that?" The very simplest way you can pay us back here at Meteo Mundo is by clicking that like button, that thumbs up, okay? Liking this video and then dropping a comment below, even if you just want to say hi. That brings up the engagement of the video, and the YouTube algorithm loves that, and then will actually suggest this video to more people. The other big way you can help support the channel is by subscribing. Now, it's not like a magazine subscription. You don't pay for it. Subscriptions on YouTube are absolutely free. It's just a way to say, hey, I like your channel. And you notice that the bell is there. You can get notifications. So if you subscribe to Meteo Mundo, then you can turn on notifications when there's new content, when there are new videos, when I go live. So subscribe and then have those notifications on. You can share this with your family and friends. Now, if you would like to financially support Meteo Mundo, there's a couple of different ways. First of all, you can do it via our memberships. That's just 99 cents a month. That's the join button that you see. The memberships are the join button. And for 99 cents a month, you get custom badges and emojis. The super thanks, that's the heart with the dollar sign. That's basically a tip jar, if you will, if you would like to support the channel that way. And if you'd like to directly support via the PayPal and Venmo links in the description below. But I've had some questions as to each of these, so I just wanted to take a quick second and highlight those. The main thing, though, is by liking and subscribing, which is absolutely free. You help to support the channel that way. Okay, friends, let's get back into what's happening right now with Francine. So a couple different things here. The first thing I want to talk about is actually I can bring on the latest advisory from Francine and we can look at it together. So I'm actually going to just bring this on screen here and then we'll take a look at this together. The first thing I want to note, again, we're already looking at some of the statistics from this, but we have storm surge warnings that are currently in effect as well, and we're going to highlight those, all right? And then just going down here, some of the things that I wanted to highlight, first of all, again, 65-mile-an-hour winds, an increase in forward speed, but also that we're looking at hurricane force conditions through portions of especially Louisiana as we get into late Wednesday, early on Thursday. Rainfall totals could be excessive, 4 to 8 inches, but locally up to 12 inches of rain are possible for the coastlines of northeast Mexico, northward to the far lower, far upper Texas coast, including southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and into Thursday morning. Obviously, we're going to have a flash flood risk associated with that. Okay, so again, on this track, the main impacts are going to be for Louisiana. For my friends in Texas, this should be a fairly small, compact hurricane. Two good things. One, it's compact, and two, you're going to be on the western, weaker side. Now, you're going to get some tropical storm force winds coming right up the coast throughout the next 48 hours or so, but more than likely, based on this track, you're not going to get the brunt of Hurricane Francine. Still doesn't mean places like Galveston and Galveston Bay won't have some issues, including some storm surge, and we'll look at that. But the red areas are your hurricane warnings, and there could be some extensive storm surge along the path of Francine and, of course, off to the east. And that would include places like Grand Isle in the New Orleans area and Lake Pontchartrain, and even coastal sides of Mississippi like Biloxi and Gulfport. Even as far east as Mobile could have some storm surge issues, but mainly concentrated along the Louisiana coastline from where Francine moves onshore and off towards the east. So let's take a look at some of the computer models here, and then we'll get into some of the specifics of the forecast. So I'm going to bring up the GFS model first. Just going to go out a couple of days here, at least initially. So let's loop this up. Now again, Francine already has winds of 65 miles an hour. The rings that you see are my computer algorithm painting on tropical depression strength winds, tropical storm force winds, and then the pinks are the hurricane force winds. So again, compact storm, more than likely upper Texas will be brushed with some tropical storm force, at least gusts, but the bulk of the activity here will be coming into Louisiana. So let's take a look at the GFS model to begin with here. Let me back this up. I'm also going to dump those rings because it's just going to be a little bit easier to see. So again, the GFS model more than likely is slightly weaker than what it should be right now. And with rapidly intensifying storms, it's hard for these models to really get a great handle on it. So again, today is of course the 9th. As we get into Tuesday the 10th, we see a little bit stronger storm, and then especially on Wednesday the 11th. Now, the GFS never fully develops Francine probably as it should. I do want to note a couple of things. Shear is forecast along coastal Louisiana as we go into Wednesday, Thursday. That's good news because even as we get into early Wednesday afternoon, we could already have a Category 2 hurricane here. Hopefully, we don't have any further strengthening as it gets closer to the Louisiana coastline, and the official forecast has this rapidly losing strength as it moves inland, as it encounters more and more shear the deeper into Louisiana that we go. So hopefully this rapidly loses strength, but unfortunately we could have a Cat 2 hurricane on the doorstep of Louisiana, anywhere basically from, let's say, the Sabine Pass area towards Morgan City. That's your hurricane warnings, but we'll see how this plays out as far as the actual track. Let's go over to the NAM model just to show you guys a couple different models here, and I'm going to show you a couple more as well, but I'm going to switch over to the NAM. Take me just 1 second here, and again, as this loads up, if you haven't hit that like button, I thoroughly appreciate it. NAM's a little bit better right now as far as the intensity. Both of them have done very well with where the center of circulation is. And speaking of doing well as well, if I put on the spaghetti plots real quick, notice that our tropical models are all within the cone of uncertainty. Doesn't look to be a lot of wiggle room here. I don't think we can ignore these couple that are out west, but all those spaghetti plot tropical models are within that cone of uncertainty. So based on the NAM, again, here, more than anything, it's just going to be timing. As we get into Wednesday afternoon, we'll start to see the beginning impacts. You can see that. The NAM's a little bit faster, trying to push this onshore late Wednesday compared to early on Thursday, but it's the same scenario here where you have a hurricane moving onshore into the southern sides of Louisiana late Wednesday, early on Thursday. All of the worst weather would be east of the center of circulation, but again, still some impacts for places like Galveston and Houston, especially with some wind that could wrap around the storm as well. This is the European deterministic model. You'll notice that it has picked up again on the center. It's a little bit too high in pressure. Again, the current pressure is 996 millibars. With a rapidly deepening storm, these models have a tough time picking up on that. But it does become a hurricane as it moves inland. Forecast from the European model would be very late Wednesday, right around midnight on Thursday for landfall. But it's right in line with the GFS and the NAM models that I just showed you. It keeps the center of circulation offshore. It keeps the worst weather just offshore of Texas coastline, even though tropical storm conditions are possible, but it brings the hurricane conditions into southwest, south central Louisiana early on Thursday morning, more than likely even late Wednesday night. This is the HAFS-A model, okay? These are wind speeds in miles an hour. And again, you're gonna see a rapidly intensifying storm taking about the same track. The models seem to be in all pretty darn good agreement here. This one is slightly farther off towards the east. The Hurricane Center's 4 p.m. advisory had shifted slightly farther west. So we'll see, does the HAFS-A model begin to move back west as well? But again, south central sides of the central coastline of Louisiana. Again, looking at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, maximum winds very briefly, if you look in one of those frames, touch 100 miles an hour, okay? And again, these are sustained winds. So the HAFS-A model does have it as a Category 2 hurricane as well. So let's break down the watches and the warnings. As of the 4 p.m. Monday advisory, and this is going to change, please continue to check in with your local officials. I'll have the latest information when I do the video updates, but these watches and warnings are going to change. So the hurricane warning is in effect from Sabine Pass to Morgan City, Louisiana. Hurricane watch then goes from Morgan City east to Grand Isle. On either side of those, you have some tropical storm warnings, which encompass portions of the hurricane watches and warnings, meaning that these areas will definitely see tropical storm conditions and could or likely to see hurricane conditions. So the tropical storm warnings are Morgan City to Grand Isle and High Island to Sabine Pass. And if you live in these areas, you know what we're talking about. And again, on either side of those, all the way to Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas, and then all the way west to portions of North Mexico, you have yourself a tropical storm watch. The other big issue is going to be the storm surge, okay? If you don't know the uniqueness of the Louisiana coastline, it's a receding coastline. The Gulf of Mexico is actually collecting, if you will, portions of the Louisiana coastline each and every day, okay? It's giving back the coast to the Gulf of Mexico. That's a problem when you're talking about a storm surge. It's a very marshy, very swampy coastal area here, and there's not a lot of solid ground to stop a 5 to 10 foot storm surge. And that is the forecast right now from Cameron all the way to Port Fourchon, all right? Vermilion Bay included in that. And if you live in these areas, you know what I'm talking about. New Iberia, all the way up to Lafayette, close to I-10, could see storm surge and flood issues. And if you live in these areas, let everyone know in the comment section below what I'm talking about here. Very swampy, very marshy, receding coastline. There's just not a lot stopping a 5 to 10 foot storm surge. It's gonna be a huge problem. We could even see a 3 to 5 foot storm surge from Cameron West to High Island, and a 1 to 3 foot storm surge basically up and down the Texas coastline, including Galveston Bay all the way to the Rio Grande. On the east side of this, it's a 4 to 7 to the mouth of the Mississippi, and then a 2 to 4 for Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. And that does include New Orleans. And New Orleans is a city that is below sea level. If you don't know, you have Lake Pontchartrain on one side, you have the Mississippi River on the other, and this fishbowl is the city of New Orleans, all right? So they have pumps to try and get out some of the water, especially when it floods, when it rains very heavily. But when we're talking about a storm surge and very heavy rainfall, New Orleans is an area that has big time problems when it comes to both, because they are a city below sea level. They use pumps to get the water out, and those pumps can only get so much water out in a short amount of time, all right? So this is a big issue for Louisiana when we're talking about a 5 to 10 foot storm surge near the center, 4 to 7 all the way to the mouth of the Mississippi near Grand Isle, and again, places like Lake Pontchartrain. And I know this area well because one of my first television jobs was in Biloxi, Mississippi. I worked there for 3 years. I got to learn this area very well. And unfortunately, again, with the way that the receding coastline is in Louisiana, storm surge is going to be a big, big issue. Obviously, this is going to come with very rough surf and seas as well, okay? Obviously, the sea conditions are going to be outrageous for the northwest side of the Gulf of Mexico, all right? I've stopped this at one point, and this is going to be kind of mid-morning Wednesday. Again, bottom right-hand side of your screen, 26-foot maximum wave height in the northwest Gulf of Mexico from this model, all right? Doesn't mean that we're going to get those kinds of waves coming closer to coastal Louisiana, but we could have some 20-foot plus wave heights in the northwest Gulf late Tuesday and early on Wednesday. There's some oil platforms out there. There's actually a high density of weather networks, so we'll be able to closely monitor some of the wave heights that come along with this as well. But again, wave heights, storm surge, heavy rain, all problems, upper Texas, but especially Louisiana, and maybe even portions of coastal Mississippi as well. All right, so friends, that's the latest with Francine. And again, you have any other specific questions, drop in the comments section below. But obviously, if you live along the Texas coastline, but especially Louisiana coastline, you need to start preparing right now. Again, impacts will begin to develop tomorrow, and then throughout the day Wednesday and early on Thursday, the weather is really going to go downhill. Please check in with your local National Weather Service offices, your local government, your local officials for all the latest messaging. Let's get back out to the rest of our area here. I do want to highlight what's going on in the Atlantic, all right? And again, I'm going to hope that I can pause this, but this has been giving me some issues lately, if you guys know. For some reason, this thing just wants to loop and not stop, and I can't stop it. So we're just going to move on. Two distinct areas of potential development. 70% chance area in red, 60% chance area in orange. Now, both of them look to gain latitude relatively quickly. That's good news, but we'll have to monitor the area in orange for a potential closer approach to the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico as we go over the next week. Let's take a look at the model. I'm going to bring back on the GFS here and then show you that real quick. And again, as I'm loading that up, if you haven't hit the like button, I thoroughly appreciate that. So I'm going to bring back on the GFS. Now, the last two runs of the deterministic model of the GFS were kind of all over the place with this system. The one on Saturday was kind of pushing it into the islands. The one yesterday had a much quicker turn, all right? Today's model kind of splits the difference, but it's a pretty weak system. This is it right here, trying to march into the islands basically towards the end of the week and into early in the weekend. So obviously, if you live in these areas, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, St. John, St. Thomas, St. Croix, the British Virgin Islands, I'm going to monitor this. If you notice, there's not much to it here, but that would be it, okay? Again, on the GFS deterministic, we'll see if it can hold together, but the Hurricane Center does have it as a 60% chance. And just so we're clear, this is also an invest area as well. It's invest 92L. Winds are 30 miles an hour. Now, this system here is not an invest as of yet, but it's already a red area, a cherry, with a 70% chance of development, and we can clearly see that on the GFS. This could become the next named storm. This could become the next hurricane. But the good news is that on the models, we hope this stays a fish storm and it lifts quickly up to the north, all right? Now, elsewhere over the next couple of days, we'll continue to see some heavier rain and storms through portions of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Cuba will get some isolated showers and storms over Jamaica the next couple of days. Nothing outrageous. A lot of hot conditions out there. Still expecting relatively tranquil conditions for the Turks and the Caicos and the Bahamas. Could see a little bit of moisture actually extend east from Francine and clip the northwest side of the Bahamas over the next few days is something I'll monitor, but I don't expect it's going to be a big situation there. Showers and storms will continue to develop on a daily basis, especially in the southern sides of Central America, all the way up towards Belize in at least an isolated fashion. And again, after this first shear axis moves by, we should dry out a little bit here, but still expect some daily showers and storms for Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada and Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Martinique north here. We're not going to be completely dry. Let's take a look at the ensemble members of the GFS with the storm out in the Atlantic. And again, we'll start to see these members pull it in a little bit closer to the Lesser Antilles in general here, but most of them have it lifting far enough north, far enough east with not a direct impact. Now, there are still a couple of ensemble members that do. This could be a glancing blow, okay? We'll just have to monitor this. And again, the one farther east should develop even a little bit stronger, but move into the central Atlantic and stay a fish storm. So we're actually more concerned about the area west, which will more than likely be a little bit weaker, but will make a potential closer approach to the Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. This is the ensemble members as a plot. When you're looking at the purple, that's the deterministic model. So basically, what I just showed you is that purple line. Notice it's relatively close, especially towards Anguilla, Antigua, and Barbuda. Some of the members take it right over the Lesser Antilles. The bulk of the members have it curving quicker north and east. And that black, that is the ensemble mean, meaning if you took all of the ensemble members of the GFS and you average them out, where would it go? It's right here. So it is north and east of the deterministic model, which of course is kind of the main model, if you will. Now looking at the European model. It's a little bit more aggressive overall with both systems, especially with the one off towards the east. You can see that clearly. It doesn't take it extremely close to the Lesser Antilles. So the GFS is actually a little bit closer in approach here. More than anything, we get the easterly storm to develop, but again, stay out in the south central sides of the Atlantic. Rainfall totals could obviously be very significant. We already talked about how we could get 4 to 8 inches of rain along the path of Francine, locally up to 12 inches to go along with a massive storm surge threat as well. Could also see some very heavy rain through portions of Costa Rica and Panama, and again, approaching portions of the Lesser Antilles as well. Some of that slipping over the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. A little bit drier for the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, most of the Bahamas over the next 7 days, outside of, again, of the Abacos, Grand Bahama, Walker's Key, Bimini, 2 to 4 inches of rain in some isolated spots. And again, the red on the map is 2 to 4 inches or 50 to 100 millimeters. But again, there are some spots over 12 inches of rain here on the forecast map. Friends, I appreciate you guys. We're not just here on YouTube. You can follow us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video like Chad and Barbie did. It's myMediaMundo@gmail.com. Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, drop it in the comments section below. If you guys are there, please like and subscribe. The 24/7 radar will be coming back as well. And even though I'm saying this at the end of the video, I'll highlight it again for tomorrow. I do have plans right now to cover Francine live on Wednesday night as it makes its approach to Louisiana. So we'll talk more about that in tomorrow's video, but that is the initial plans, is that I'll be live as Francine approaches the Louisiana coast. Friends, have a great rest of your Monday. I'll be back shortly with the newest updates. Until then, have a good one, and I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.